Good afternoon, comic book fans. Welcome to Comics in 5 Minutes. I'm your ever-loving host, Shorty, and yes, once again, it's not a review because it's Saturday. No new comic books have come out. It's fine. So I'm going to do one of our best of 2020, and in another year, I think this one would be higher. It is the best thing that James Tynion the fourth has ever written, in my humble opinion, and it's got artwork by Simmons, I think. The guy did Dying is Easy, which is another one of my absolute favourites for the year. So there's a lot of reasons why this is going to be good. But before I really get into it, I have to say, sometimes when I talk about comic books that I love, I'll tell you like my personal reasons for liking it. Because yes, there's a lot of really good comic books out there, but they might not grab me. This one, it's impossible to talk about without having politics as part of it. So I kind of have to put my heart on my sleeve here and just tell you a little bit about that and why it's something that appeals to me. If you've been actually in my store, you probably have noticed there's a Black Lives Matter banner up in the store from when I've been on a march. I'm an anti-fascist, anti-racist, LGBTQ plus ally, and I do my absolute damnedest to be the best person I can be with regards to that. If you consider yourself to be the antithesis of that, this comic book is not for you. And if you just pick up and read issue 1, you might be wondering why, because issue 1 is just this very, very cool story about what happens if the conspiracy theories about the JFK assassination were actually true. And it's a brilliant little read. It's very well written. It's really, to say there's a lot of dialogue, it is done so tightly that even like the prolonged periods of back and forths don't feel like there's a single word wasted. As I say, Tynion's best writing. It's kind of stuff I've seen in other stuff where he's not quite honed it yet, but this is him at the absolute top of his game. Once you finish issue 1, though, you start getting into some of the other conspiracy theories that are out there. And it's kind of hard to say this without coming across as the massive lefty that I am. But an awful lot of the terrible conspiracy theories out there are propagated and kept alive by people who would probably never vote either Democrat or Labour Party. The kind of people who are talking about the inoculation that we're going to be getting for COVID-19 also being a thing that Steve Jobs is using to track you and that the government is using to control you are probably the same kind of people who buy a lot of those products, support that lifestyle, and probably vote for the people who are in power organizing this kind of thing. Yes, I am on a little bit of a political thing here, but again, you cannot disentangle that from this comic book. There's an entire issue where it's about people claiming that the school shootings are not real. And it's basically actors being put in there to say that this is actually what happened. And anyone who is vaguely aware of the world will know that that is a right-wing conspiracy theory. This runs throughout all of it. Like I said, if you're the person who agrees with this kind of thing, this comic book is not for you. But if you find yourself sitting on the fence, if you're a person who just doesn't have an opinion either way on this kind of thing, you can still get a whole lot of enjoyment from it, simply because it is, as I say, one of the best written comic, well, it is the best written comic book that Tynion's done. It is one of the better written ones of the year. And because I am a massive fan of Simmons' artwork, it just works. I wouldn't have thought of it as a horror comic book when I first read the blurb on the back. I thought it was going to be more a political thriller, lots of intrigue and backwards and forwards and like a House of Cards-esque kind of thing going on, maybe a little bit of X-Files in there. But it didn't take long for this to set itself up as potentially one of the best horror comic books I've read, because there's a certain level of brutality to the artwork where things that aren't even necessarily horrendous things are portrayed in such a way that the detail on it just makes you really get into what's going on, and you cannot look away from it. You have to engage, and the more you do, the more you realize how horrific this is. And because a lot of this stuff is based on things that happen in the real world, it, if anything, makes it even more horrific. It makes it impossible to turn away from. And I hope that anyone who does pick it up or has picked it up has understood what the attempt is doing here. It's not just to write a great comic book, although it is. It's not just to present some wild, wonderful artwork, although it is. It's doing what genre fiction has been doing since genre fiction was a thing. People who look at things like The Time Machine and go, oh, cool, it's a story about traveling through time. That's amazing. Miss an awful lot of what else is going on there. Hell, even the Christmas Carol, which is a ghost story, is telling you an awful lot of stuff about the world that the writer was living in and how things operated and how things could be made better instead of just accepting what's going on. Genre fiction has always been doing that. This is potentially one of the best examples that I've seen in a long time. As I say, we're only 3 issues in. Issue 4 is literally out next week. And I'm really hoping that it managed to maintain what it's doing. And I'm also really hoping that it doesn't do what Image Comics quite often does and just drop 6 issues and vanishes. Really hope this ends up being a piece of art that continues existing and continues developing and drawing attention to these kind of things. Because it needs to happen. And the way it presents the ideas, it doesn't dismiss the idea that there's a reason why people believe in the conspiracy theories. What it does is present actual solid reasons why it's impossible for these things to exist. And that's a good thing. Plus, as I say, it's a great comic book and it looks fantastic. Anyway, that's it from me. Tuesday is our last delivery of the week, so I'll be doing an unboxing and probably a review, plus the last 3 of our best of 2020. So if you enjoyed this one, hit subscribe, tell your friends about it, and I'll see you later. Bye. Woo! Okay, I haven't ended that then. So